Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Bonsoir, mesdames et messieurs. My name is Anthony Massey. I'm the Provost, the Chief Academic Officer of McGill University, and it is my great honor to welcome you all here tonight for this special public lecture with acclaimed singer-songwriter and Brazil's Minister of Culture, Gilberto Gil. I would like to commend media at McGill and the McGill Institute for the Study of Canada for putting together tonight's event and for attracting such a renowned international figure as Gilberto Gil. His presence confirms the commitment of these two dynamic units to rich international dialogue on key issues facing today's scholars, policymakers, activists, and the general public. As the most internationally focused of Canada's universities, McGill is proud of media at McGill and the McGill Institute for the Study of Canada and of their success in bringing together leading Canadian experts on cultural policy and distinguished visitors, again, such as Brazil's Minister of Culture. I believe McGill is defined by its people, and as such, I would be remiss in not thanking the organizer for tonight's event, Professor Will Straw, the acting director of the McGill Institute, and Dr. Mark Raboy, the chair of Media at McGill. Many thanks to you and to your team. I would now like to invite Dr. Mark Raboy, the Beaverbrook Chair in Ethics, Media, and Communications at McGill University, to the podium to introduce our keynote speaker. Thank you.
Merci, Professeur Massey. Bonsoir, mesdames et messieurs, et bienvenue à cet événement extraordinaire. He's been called the Minister of Cool. He is known by millions around the world as a musician, singer, songwriter, and performer, and by millions more as Brazil's Minister of Culture. The New York Times wrote about him last year. He doesn't just make music, he also makes policy. Gilberto Gil began his career in the 1960s as a bossa nova musician and helped found the anti-establishment Tropicalia movement. As his lyrical leanings became more and more politically and socially charged, Gil ran afoul of Brazil's military government of the day, and in 1968 he was imprisoned for several months before going into exile. He returned to Brazil in the 1970s and resumed his career in music and political activism. President Lula da Silva appointed Gil to serve as Brazil's Minister of Culture in January 2003. And so, after entertaining audiences and inspiring musicians around the world with nearly 50 albums and 2 Grammy Awards, Gilberto Gil became an inspiration to a new audience, a global audience of hackers, digital artists, free software aficionados, and more. In the past 5 years, he has become an icon for all that is new and exciting in the digital world where media, technology, and culture intersect. As minister, he has been an outspoken advocate of free and open access to technologies, as well as protection of the rights of artists. Under the patronage of his ministry, traditional and grassroots communities throughout Brazil have been turned into centers of digital cultural production. He has also become a global activist for these causes. Last November, Gilberto Gil hosted the United Nations Internet Governance Forum, where he called for the establishment of an international Internet Bill of Rights. As his colleagues like to say, Gil has one foot in government and the other in civil society. He believes in copyleft, not copyright. He is one of the world's leading proponents of the term "some rights reserved." But he'd really rather be on tour. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Media at McGill and the McGill Institute for the Study of Canada, please join me in welcoming the hippest, coolest, funkiest politician in the Americas, Gilberto Gil.
Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Muito obrigado. Merci, merci. Thank you. D'abord, je voudrais remercier l'Institut des études canadiennes de l'Université de McGill pour l'invitation l'occasion d'être ici, chez vous, de vous parler, de vous voir, de vous rencontrer, de pouvoir passer un peu à vous mon émotion, mon enthousiasme vers la question de la vie moderne, de la vie contemporaine, sa complexité, sa diversité, ses problèmes, nos façons d'essayer de résoudre ces problèmes-là, le travail comme artiste, le travail comme membre d'un gouvernement, le gouvernement d'un pays aussi intéressant comme le Brésil et tout ça. Donc, merci beaucoup pour l'invitation. With the exception of Plato's Republic, all utopias that remain firmly in the imagination of our times emerge from the discovery of America. This is an observation made by Oswald de Andrade, a great intellectual from the Brazilian modernist movement, who adds, utopias are a consequence of the discovery of the new world and of the new man. Without us, he said, without us, Americans, Europe wouldn't have its Declaration of Human Rights. Are we American? Sommes-nous, os Américains? Are we really the new world? Do we today stand up to these utopian expectations? It's a good moment to ask these questions. There is a general feeling of no hope on the horizon of humanity. And this is easily understood when we see extreme poverty and extreme wealth spread unequally all over the world. When we see corruption and violence in our big cities, our slums, among its people, communities, and governments, we might think that we have reproduced only the worst of the old world. It's time for us Americans to rethink the New World's myth from a critical contemporaneous standpoint. Myths are not illusions. Very often, they provide us with the essence of popular wisdom. If we take them into consideration, they might be the way to interpret our most legitimate aspirations and therefore be the source of rethinking and remaking politics and policies. But I want to bring you an optimistic point of view based on the experience that we have put forward in the Ministry of Culture in Brazil. How we have translated our ideals into concrete actions. How we have started, the tentative of living in daily life some of the dreams that we have developed, along our lives. I want to share with you these ideas, and I think that they apply to all of our American countries. We at the ministry have insisted on the strategic role of culture in policy making. This has obliged us to change radically the way to conceive of politics, state, society, and technology. In politics, and especially in governments, radical changes are only possible at specific historical moments. Inserting culture in its inherent diversity as policy making is a very easy concept to understand and a very difficult concept to put